District, Congresswoman Betsy Markley has declined, and Cory Gardner, candidate, has confirmed. So we will have Cory be up here next. Again, if you have questions for Cory, please put them on a card and we will get your questions answered as soon as we can. Okay. Cory, we'll give you 2 minutes or 10 minutes. Is that enough?
2 minutes is probably enough. How many people are from the 4th? Raise your hand if you're in the 4th Congressional. So we've got 1, so very good. All right. 2. Wes is in the 4th. Very good.
We may only need 2 then.
That's right. Well, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to be here today. It really is an honor to once again be before Action 22. I've spent many years coming to the organization, participating, listening in the forums, and as well as representing in the state legislature many of the counties within Action 22 that are represented here, and it truly has been a great honor. My name is Cory Gardner. I'm running for Congress in the 4th Congressional District. Are you ready to get this economy back on track? Are you ready to start creating jobs and build this country back into the greatest nation on the face of this earth? You know, we've got an amazing opportunity this November to change the very course of this country. To make sure that we once again are a nation of freedom, of individual liberties, where we let ourselves and our businesses and our families control their lives, their destinations, and build their opportunities, without a bureaucrat telling them what to do, or how to interfere, or how to run their own lives. And so this November, that choice is going to confront this nation, a nation that will decide whether or not over-regulation, over-taxation, more government is the answer. I'm here to say that it's not. We need to build on our freedoms, to get government out of the way so that we can create private sector jobs, to stop the spending, to cut spending, and end the wasteful disregard of the taxpayer dollars so that we can get government out of the way and let America work so that we can again restore the promise of future generations. This government continues to spend and spend and spend. I believe it was Mitch Daniels who probably characterized it best by saying, this is a government whose philosophy it seems to be, don't just stand there, spend something. And it must stop. Let's balance the budget. Let's again create economic opportunity, creating jobs, and making sure that we put this country on a path of sustainable economic development instead of bankruptcy. And I really don't want to go too long into comments, because I want to talk a little bit about the district, the 4th Congressional District where I'm running from. I'm from Yuma, Colorado. How many know where Yuma, Colorado is? That's good, because Yuma, Colorado is about 40 miles away from Kansas, Nebraska. The 4th Congressional District is a massive district. It spans all the way from the New Mexico, Oklahoma border to Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, Rocky Mountain National Park, Larimer County, Weld County, agriculture, energy, banking, software development, renewable energy. Tremendous opportunities for so many people in a district as expansive as the 32,000 square miles of the 4th Congressional District. I grew up in a family farm business, a family farm equipment dealership that my great-granddad started in Yuma, Colorado in 1915. In fact, if you go to Yuma today and you go down to Main Street and 2nd Avenue, you'll see a little chunk of concrete where my great-great-granddad started his first hardware store. 100 years ago this year, he moved his family to Colorado to build greater opportunities for himself and his family, to make sure that they were able to achieve the American dream and pursue the opportunities that this country has been so blessed with. And I am afraid that if we don't, again, take this country back in November, that my daughter and future generations will not have the same opportunity that he and his fellow generation had to build their opportunities. I would be honored to answer any questions that you might have, and certainly hope that if there's only a couple people here from the 4th Congressional District, we'd love to have you come and visit. We can pick up the economy a little bit. Tourism is always a good thing for the district, but certainly would love to answer any questions that you have. My opponent is not here today. Of course, she always sends a staffer to film me, so please welcome the Markey campaign staff, even though Betsy Markey could not be here.
All right. First question is, what would you do to protect Colorado water rights?
You know, again, Colorado water rights, I am passionate about water, and believe, as all of us do, that water is the lifeblood of this state. If you go into the Capitol in Denver, Colorado, in the rotunda, there's a poem written by Thomas Hornsby Farrell, and that poem begins something to the effect of this: "Here is a land where history is written in water." How true that is from over 200 years ago when the first people came to Colorado, over 100 years ago when the prior appropriations doctrine was developed, to today, as we need to make sure that we're developing more and more water storage, where we're developing projects like the NISP project that my opponent has refused to take a position on. We need to store more water, we need to conserve water, and we need to make sure that the federal government is responsive to the needs of the people of Colorado. And instead of following the directives of the federal government, that they are following the needs and desires of the people of the state. How do we protect Colorado water rights? We make sure the federal government keeps the heck out of Colorado water law. We have somebody in the federal government who ensures they will stand up to protect Colorado water law and make sure the federal government does not intrude on the prior appropriations doctrine.
Okay. All right, this next question, two-part question. What industries and business need more federal regulations? And what industries and businesses need less federal regulation?
You know, I think that, again, what we have to do is build a strong economy. We need to make sure that businesses have the opportunity to succeed, that consumers are protected from unscrupulous behavior, but we also need to make sure that businesses are given the opportunity to thrive and succeed. Yuma County, my home county, is a perfect example of this. If you look at what happened to that county during the discussions over the oil and gas regulations, a lot of businesses left that county. And so whether it's a state regulation, whether it's a federal regulation, the federal government can go too far. We've got to make sure the federal government does not go too far.
All right. Having served in the state legislature, what would you try to take to the federal side from Colorado, and what would you not want to take to the feds from Colorado?
Well, I think Colorado has a balanced budget amendment. The requirement every year that Colorado balances its budget. The federal government needs to balance its budget. So if we could do one thing that Colorado does very well, balance the budget and make sure the federal government is balancing its budget in the same form. What we don't need from Colorado and the federal government, we've seen more and more hiring of new state employees. We've seen more and greater powers given to the unions. The federal government doesn't need to hire more people. It doesn't need to give greater power to the unions. My opponent has co-sponsored card check. In Colorado, we've seen the labor executive order by Governor Ritter. Those giveaways to labor unions need to stop.
Okay, what is your position on abortion? And do you believe in the exceptions in rape and incest? And what about birth control and contraceptives?
You know, I am pro-life, and the sad thing about the discussion this year is it seems to have, people are taking it away from the fact that people don't want abortion. That is not something that this discussion ought to be about. It ought to be about how we can prevent abortion and make sure that we're protecting life and giving resources to people to avoid abortion.
All right. Next question is dealing with national security. Would you support and introduce a strong missile defense system? And would you support Israelis' right to self-preservation?
Well, first of all, we have to stand by our ally in the Middle East, Israel. The most important thing that we can do is to stand by Israel and make sure that it is protected and it remains our greatest and strongest ally in the Middle East. And so by that, in terms of we need to make sure that we are continuing to build our relationship with our allies in the Middle East. In terms of a missile defense, I look forward to speaking with the commanders in the field, workers, people who are within the Department of Defense to determine what is needed for this country. I believe a missile defense system would protect our country.
Mayor Hickenlooper denies claims Denver is taking water away from rural Colorado by buying water rights. He says per capita consumption in Denver is down. What is your view?
Well, again, I think if you look at where 85% of our water belongs today, it is owned by agriculture and used for agricultural purposes. We have to begin storing more water in this state. We've got to begin the process of building and constructing more water storage. Unfortunately, my opponent has opposed NISP. It's a project that would prevent the buy-up and dry-up of tens of thousands of acres of farmland in northern Colorado. If we store more water, we will make sure that as the needs of cities grow, that we will be able to supply our farms and ranches with the water that they need to grow. Colorado water can't be a zero-sum game. We need cooperation between the western slope, the eastern plains, and cities and municipalities. But we have to make sure we're storing more water. Without more water storage, it will result in one thing, and that is the buy-up and dry-up of this state's agricultural land.
Let me just ask a question of my own then. Where would you propose that being from a mountain region, where would you propose that these storage facilities be built?
Well, again, I think there are a number of storage facilities that have been proposed by people on the western slope, by organizations on the eastern plains, by organizations in northern Colorado and southern Colorado. So I don't think there's only one specific spot. There are a number of good projects that are on the books. But let's be realistic about what's happening. According to the statewide water supply initiative, we will need hundreds of thousands of additional acre feet over the next 10, 20 to 30 years to meet our future needs. And if we do not continue to build our existing water storage, expand existing storage, and construct new storage, we will not have the necessary storage for future populations, for agriculture, and for farm ground. So where should we put them? NISP is one that I've already identified that my opponent has refused to take a position on.
All right. Next question is related to your opponent. You happen to know how many debates she has missed, and if she is ashamed of her record, and why?
Well,
I'm not sure you can really answer that.
Well, let me just put it this way. She has refused to debate us one-on-one. The most important debate of the campaign season, the Fort Collins, Colorado, the local newspaper and Channel 9 News, she refused to debate. I believe there are some debates that she has agreed to, and I think it's important that Betsy Markey, who has voted 94% of the time with Nancy Pelosi, be given an opportunity to explain to the people why she deserves to be elected again, and perhaps that's what she's afraid of.
All right. What do you think of healthcare reform?
Our family farm equipment dealership has a number of employees who have seen their health insurance costs increase over the years. And so we've got to make sure that we're putting policies in place that do two things. Number one, lower the cost of health care. Number two, increase the quality of care. But the health care bill that was passed by this Congress, voted for, by Betsy Markey voted for, is not the answer. That is not the solution. Instead, we ought